As an orthopedic surgeon who has spent more than 4 decades inside operating rooms, rehab clinics, and hospital wards across the United States, I want to speak to you honestly, not as a fitness influencer, not as a tech CEO, but as a doctor who has seen what really happens to the human body after 75. Every week, I hear the same advice being repeated on TV, social media, and wellness apps. Just keep walking. Walking is enough. It sounds comforting. It sounds simple. But in real life, inside real American homes and hospitals, that message is dangerously incomplete. Walking is good for the heart, the lungs, and the mind. I recommend it to my patients every day. But walking alone does not rebuild muscle that has already weakened. It does not restore balance once it starts slipping. It does not strengthen bones when there is no meaningful load placed on them. And it does not train the quick reactions your body needs to stop a fall when you trip over a rug, a curb, or a step in your own house. I have operated on patients who could walk a mile around their neighborhood, but could not stand up from a chair without using their arms. I have treated seniors who walked daily, but broke a hip reaching for something on a kitchen shelf because their body could not react fast enough. That is not a failure of effort. That is a failure of guidance. After 75, the body loses strength every single month. Muscles shrink, nerves slow down, and bones become more fragile if they are not challenged in the right way. Walking is a forward motion, repetitive and gentle, and while that has value, it leaves critical gaps. It does not challenge side-to-side stability. It does not ask your legs to support your full body weight on one side. It does not teach your muscles to fire quickly when something unexpected happens. When companies say walking is enough, they are ignoring biomechanics, ignoring decades of surgical outcomes, and ignoring what we see in real American patients every day. Independence in older age is not about how many steps you log on a watch. It is about whether you can get up from the toilet without help, catch yourself before you fall, and move through your home with confidence. Walking should be part of the picture, but it should never be the whole plan. When strength disappears, walking alone cannot bring it back. Only intentional. I want you to understand something important about how these recommendations were formed, because they were not pulled from a blog, a trend report, or a wellness app. They came from frustration. Frustration from watching too many older Americans do everything right and still lose strength, balance, and independence. A group of us, 22 surgeons from the United States, Japan, Germany, Canada, and several other countries, each with more than 40 years in operating rooms and rehabilitation clinics, decided to stop accepting simple answers. We asked a harder question. If walking alone truly worked, why were we still repairing so many broken hips, shoulders, and spines in people who walked every single day? So we went back to the evidence. We reviewed hundreds of medical studies, not just one or two, but decades of research on aging, muscle loss, balance, and recovery. We studied rehabilitation programs from 9 different countries, looking closely at what helped people stay independent in their own homes, not just what improved numbers on paper. We even tested these movements on ourselves, because we did not believe in recommending anything we would not do. In the process, we examined nearly 300 different exercises from around the world. Some came from modern physical therapy clinics. Others were passed down through traditional programs, especially from Japan, where aging is approached with preparation instead of fear. In fact, almost half of the exercises we tested came from Japanese rehabilitation and movement systems, where the goal is not to move more, but to move smarter as the body changes. Most of these exercises offered small benefits. Some helped flexibility, but did nothing for strength. Others improved strength but failed to reduce fall risk. A few looked impressive but proved too risky for older joints. Many failed completely when tested in real people over 75. But 5 exercises stood out clearly, not because they were flashy, but because their results were visible, measurable, and repeatable. We saw older adults regain muscle where loss had already occurred. We saw improvements in balance that translated into real life, like stepping off a curb or turning quickly in a kitchen. We saw stronger legs, steadier hips, and faster reactions, even in people who had been declining for years. What mattered most was not intensity or equipment. None of these exercises required a gym, machines, or expensive gear. What mattered was that they challenged the body in ways daily life actually demands. Standing on one leg, getting up from a chair, holding tension safely, teaching the nervous system to respond again. This process changed how we think as surgeons. It reminded us that aging is not a sudden collapse, but a gradual narrowing of capacity that can be widened again with the right stimulus. These 5 exercises were not chosen because they sounded good. They were chosen because they worked across countries, cultures, and bodies. When we say they matter, it is not theory. It is the result of decades of practice, hundreds of studies, and the hard lessons learned from real patients. When I talk about these 5 exercises, I want you to picture real life, not a gym, not a rehab brochure, but your own home, your own routines, and the moments that quietly determine whether you stay independent or slowly begin to rely on others. These 5 movements were not chosen because they are trendy or impressive. They were chosen because they fill the exact gaps that walking leaves behind, gaps I see every day in American patients over 75. The first is heel-to-toe walking, which may look simple but directly retrains your body's sense of position and balance. As we age, the connection between our feet and our brain weakens, which is why many older adults feel unsteady on uneven ground, in grocery store aisles, or in low lighting. Walking normally does not challenge this system because your feet are always wide apart. Heel-to-toe walking narrows your base, forcing your brain and muscles to work together again, much like tightening the signal on a weak radio. The second exercise, chair squats, addresses something even more practical: the ability to stand up without using your hands. This single skill predicts independence better than almost any test we use in medicine. If you struggle to rise from a chair, a toilet, or a car seat, life shrinks quickly. Walking does not rebuild the strength needed for that movement, but repeated, controlled standing and sitting does. Chair squats strengthen the thighs and hips in the exact pattern daily life demands, making every rise safer and more confident. The third exercise, standing hip circles, targets an area most people ignore until it fails them. Your hips are your body's steering wheel. When you trip, slip, or turn suddenly, your hips are what allow you to recover. Walking only moves the hips forward and back, like a door opening halfway. Hip circles restore full motion and strengthen the small, stabilizing muscles that keep you upright when something unexpected happens, like being bumped in a crowd or stepping off a curb too fast. The fourth exercise, the isometric wall push, surprises many people because it involves no visible movement. Yet this is one of the safest and most powerful ways to rebuild strength after 75. By pushing hard against an unmoving surface, you teach your muscles to generate force quickly without stressing your joints. This is critical because falls happen fast. You do not have time to think. Your body must react instantly. Wall pushes train your arms, chest, core, psoas, and legs to work together, the same way they do when you brace yourself on a counter or catch yourself against a wall. Walking does not train this kind of full-body coordination or quick force production. Finally, the most important exercise of all is the single leg stance. Standing on one leg may seem too basic to matter, but it is the foundation of safe movement. Every step you take is a brief moment of balancing on one leg. If you cannot hold that position steadily, walking becomes risky no matter how far you can go. Single leg stance trains balance, ankle strength, hip stability, and focus all at once. It teaches your body to stay calm and controlled when only one foot is on the ground, which is exactly when falls occur. I have seen countless patients who proudly tell me they walk every day, yet cannot stand on one leg for more than a few seconds. Those are the patients who fall reaching into a cabinet, turning too quickly, or stepping over a doorstep. Together, these 5 exercises form a complete system. They train balance in narrow and unstable positions, rebuild leg strength for daily tasks, restore hip control for sudden movements, teach the body to produce force quickly and safely, and reinforce single leg stability where falls actually happen. Walking is still valuable, and I encourage it. But walking alone is like maintaining your car by only driving it straight on smooth roads. Eventually, the steering, brakes, and suspension fail because they were never challenged. These 5 movements take less than 15 minutes a day, require no equipment, and can be done in a living room, kitchen, or hallway. They are not about pushing harder or moving faster. They are about preparing your body for real life, for the moments that matter most. When older adults add these exercises to their routine, I see fewer falls, fewer fractures, and more confidence moving through their homes. That is the goal. Not perfection, not youth, independence, safety, and the ability to live life on your own terms for as long as possible. If I had to choose one single movement that matters more than any other after 75, it would be the single leg stance. And I say that without hesitation. I know it looks almost too simple to be taken seriously. Standing on one foot does not feel like exercise. It does not make you sweat. It does not look impressive. Yet the science and the real-world outcomes could not be clearer. The ability to stand on one leg is one of the strongest predictors we have of whether an older adult will avoid falls, maintain independence, and continue living confidently in their own home. The reason this movement rises above all others is because it brings together everything the aging body needs to stay safe. Balance, coordination, ankle strength, hip control, and focus all come online at the same time. When you lift one foot off the ground, your body has no choice but to organize itself efficiently. Every small muscle in your foot and ankle begins making tiny adjustments. Your hip muscles stabilize your pelvis. Your core tightens just enough to keep you upright. Your brain sharpens its attention to where your body is in space. This is not abstract training. This is exactly what happens in daily life. Every time you take a step, reach for something, or turn around in a narrow hallway. Many people do not realize that walking is essentially a series of single-leg balances strung together. Each step includes a brief moment where only one foot is supporting your full body weight. If that moment is weak or unstable, the risk of falling rises dramatically. The problem is that during normal walking, that single-leg moment lasts less than a second. That is not long enough to strengthen the system. Standing on one leg for 20 or 30 seconds gives your nervous system time to learn, adapt, and build endurance in the muscles that protect you. I have seen patients who walk 2 or 3 miles a day, but cannot stand on one leg for 10 seconds without grabbing something. These are often the same patients who fall not while walking outside, but while doing ordinary things at home. Reaching into a cabinet, stepping over a threshold, turning too quickly after answering the phone. Their walking fitness gives them confidence, but their balance deficit quietly puts them at risk. Single-leg stance fills that gap. Research shows that people who struggle with this movement face a much higher risk of serious falls and even early death, not because the movement itself is magical, but because it reveals how well the body can protect itself when something goes wrong. Training this skill changes outcomes. I have watched older adults regain steadiness simply by practicing standing on one leg a few times a day while brushing their teeth or waiting for coffee to brew. Over weeks, their posture improves. Their steps become more controlled. Their fear of falling begins to fade, which is just as important as physical strength. Fear leads to stiffness, hesitation, and avoidance, all of which increase fall risk. The beauty of the single-leg stance is that it requires no equipment, no floor space, and no special clothing. It can be adjusted instantly. You can keep a hand near a counter. You can lift your foot just an inch off the ground. You can start with 5 seconds and build slowly. As confidence grows, small challenges like turning your head or closing your eyes strengthen the system even further. Walking alone cannot do this. Walking moves you forward, but single-leg stance teaches you to stay upright when forward motion stops or changes unexpectedly. If you care about staying independent, avoiding a broken hip, and continuing to move through your home with confidence, this one simple movement deserves your attention every single day. I want to leave you with advice you can actually use starting today, not next month, not after you buy equipment, and not after you feel ready. The most important truth I have learned over decades of treating older adults is this: independence is built through small, consistent actions, not dramatic workouts. Walking is still valuable, and I encourage you to keep doing it, but it should be viewed as the background, not the solution. The real protection comes from movements that teach your bodies how to stay upright, strong, and responsive in everyday situations. The 5 exercises we discussed take less than 15 minutes total, and they fit naturally into a normal American day. You do not need to block off special time or change your routine. You can stand on one leg while brushing your teeth. You can do chair squats every time you get up from the couch, aiming to use your hands a little less each week. You can practice heel-to-toe walking down a hallway while the TV commercial plays. You can do hip circles in the morning while waiting for your coffee to finish brewing. You can push into a wall or countertop for 10 seconds before you leave the kitchen. These are not interruptions to life. They are upgrades to it. What I tell my patients is to stop thinking in terms of exercise sessions and start thinking in terms of movement habits. Your body responds best to frequent reminders, not occasional effort. If you miss a day, nothing is lost. If you do a little every day, everything changes. I have watched people in their late 70s and 80s reverse declines they assumed were permanent simply by practicing these movements consistently. Their steps became steadier. Their confidence returned. They stopped avoiding activities out of fear of falling. That mental shift is powerful because fear leads to less movement, and less movement leads to faster decline. You can break that cycle. Start with the one exercise that feels safest and most manageable. Build from there. You do not need to be perfect. You need to be present and consistent. If you ever feel unsure, keep a hand near a counter or wall. Safety always comes first. But do not underestimate your body's ability to adapt, even later in life. I have seen strength return in patients who believed it was gone forever. I have seen balance improve in people who had already experienced falls. The body is resilient when given the right signals. Think of these 5 exercises as insurance for your future self. Every few minutes you invest now reduces the chance of a devastating fall, a long hospital stay, or the loss of independence that so many older adults fear. You are not training to be younger. You are training to live better, safer, and more confidently right where you are. Start today, start small, and trust the process. Your body will meet you halfway.